What's going on, Boulder, Colorado?
But I'm serious. I analyze and I understand what we're up against and what we have and what we need.
So the Buffs are doing things that most people do not believe could have happened. And Coach Prime and this team has pulled off something else that others wouldn't even have fathomed, which is pretty amazing. This season is lining up very closely to the one that the Buffs had in 2016. Now, being 5-2 is the best start since 2018, but in 2016, the team went to the conference championship, the Pac-12 championship, that is, and they finished the season 10-4. Start with season 10-2, lost the championship game, lost in the bowl game. But that's not why we're here. We're looking at the comparisons of starts. Because going 5-2 in 2018, team kind of fell off a cliff. In 2016, the team continued to move on. So we're going to look at the comparisons between that 16 team and the 18 team. We're also going to talk about another set of awards that Travis Hunter has picked up and why this defense is helping this team look more like 2016. So let's jump into that here on the Prime Time for College Football. First thing we're going to jump into and talk about the 2016 team in comparison. Now, that 16 team did not have a player like a Travis Hunter, in which the award he got, unreal. Stick around. We'll talk about that in a bit. But when I looked at the numbers between 2016 and today, I thought it was kind of fascinating. Now, remember, in 2016, Sefo Lafu was the starting quarterback. He got hurt. Steven Mendez came in and started for 3 games. Colorado lost a couple of games, a road game to Michigan and a road game to USC. And at that time, Michigan was number 4 in the country. So kind of, similar, losing to Nebraska, even though they weren't ranked. It's kind of early in the season. They were getting things going, but I looked at that Nebraska game, the Michigan game was 45-28, Nebraska's 28-10. The USC game 21-17, the loss to Kansas State was 31-28. So, few similarities there. So I went and looked at the numbers. I was curious about the offensive output and how they compared to each other. When I looked at it, Colorado this year put up 2,200 yards passing in comparison to 21 in 16. 19 passing touchdowns to 16 passing touchdowns. But this is the thing that jumped out to me the most, was that run. Rushing wise, Colorado right now has put up 522 yards rushing on the ground. That 2016 team, 1,500 yards rushing. They were putting up 200 yards rushing on a regular. Coach Mike McIntyre had this team humming on both sides of the ball. As far as, every aspect of it, running and passing. Now, Prime and them are working on that. We're starting to see a little bit of improvement. The last game against Arizona produced 148 yards rushing. So all this team needs to do is go up. In the 2 losses in 2016, the team rushed for 64 and 96 yards. They were the only time they rushed for under 200 yards so far in the season. Whereas this year, 16 yards in the loss to Nebraska, negative 29 net in the loss to Kansas State. So there are some similarities in the balance. 16 rushing touchdowns to 8 rushing touchdowns back in 2016. But overall, this team has 9 turnovers to 8 back then. So there's a lot of similarities in the direction and trajectory of that team. Now, the team in 16 was definitely blowing teams out a lot as well, winning 44-7, 56-7, 41-38, 47-6, 40-16. And this year's team is putting up similar numbers, not as high. So that Colorado 2016 team was high flying and was putting up some numbers. This one not as much. But the difference too here is this team sounds like you're going to see some Travis Hunter again soon. And Travis Hunter is a monster. And that's where the difference is. So let's jump into that portion of it, because right now Colorado is still on that 2016 trajectory. Travis Hunter just added another accolade to his shelf of awards. The AP dropped their midseason All-American team. And Travis Hunter not only made it on the offensive side, but he's also a first-team defensive player on that list, which is huge. That tells you how great that kid is, man. It's all I can say. Travis Hunter is a beast. And so that 2016 team did not have a guy like a Travis Hunter who could play both sides. And I think that that's the one thing that makes this team jump out so much more. For me, there's nothing but playmaking all over the place. And in this Big 12, there's really nobody left on the schedule to really slow them down. In 16, they had to go against, on game 8, they had Stanford, UCLA, Arizona, which they beat as well, Washington State, Utah, and then they played Washington in the Pac-12 championship game. And we talked about this year how the schedule is lining up perfectly for Colorado to be able to honestly push for the Big 12 championship. It appears that Travis should be playing in the next game this coming weekend against Cincinnati. He plays. It's going to be a huge thing because being an All-American midseason, it just shows, Coach Prime's ability to attract super talent. And this is one of those pieces that can be leveraged, especially as you talk to recruits. Look, it's an opportunity to play both sides of the ball if you are good enough. Now show us that you can do it. And Travis being, a top 2 player based upon the recruiting site that you saw at the time, attracting him underneath Coach Prime was huge, and we're seeing it pay dividends. Now let's see more recruits do the same. And one other thing that I wanted to point out and why this team is moving in that similar direction of the 2016 team and pushing for a conference championship game is Colorado now has 21 sacks on the season, 7 against Arizona, leading the Big 12 in sacks this season. And it's not going to slow down. As you all know, the way that this team's defense has been playing, their entire goal is to keep the party going. And they have the capabilities to do that. They've been putting up, just the defense has just been playing unreal this entire season. Like, that was one side I was concerned with. I was a little worried, and y'all have heard me talk about that. I was like, okay, I think that the defense can come together, but I'm curious to see how they finish out. And look, man, they have shown me that they are definitely big. Because that 2016 team finished with Jimmy Gilbert getting 10.5 sacks on the season. And this Colorado team is playing in a similar way. Like, it's more spread out with the 21 sacks so far, with Ukalola as well as BJ Green tying with 3 sacks. And Taj McCoy also got 3 sacks. It's been a big-time team effort, and that's the shout-out to what Rob Livingston is doing on the defensive side of the ball. So, if Colorado keeps this up, this is a chance to push for the Big 12 championship. The schedule aligns up perfectly for them to honestly beeline there. Now, you've got to handle business this weekend against Cincinnati. And the way that Cincinnati plays, I mean, that defense there is rock solid. Cincinnati's been putting together some defenses over the last few years. The question is going to be, is Colorado ready to hand them that L? And I think they can. Cincinnati is also 3-1 in conference, and that's going to be the defining thing out there. They don't put a lot of points, but they give up a lot. And the way that Colorado plays, the way that Coach Prime has put this team together, they like to air it out. Cincinnati's not ready for that. So there's a chance to knock them off and then continue to move forward there. Tell me what y'all think. Hop in the comments. Love to hear from you all. Who's all going to be at the game this weekend? Do you think Colorado has a chance of pushing for that Big 12 championship game similar to the 16 team who went to the Pac-12 championship game? Love to hear from you all. All right, we'll be back close to the game. We'll be talking about, how to beat Cincinnati and what to look out for. So check that video out. It'll definitely be up in this area if you're watching this late. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any of the content. And we'll chop it up with all y'all soon.